I can't believe our first hit at my...
I can't.
I knew it!
My name is Peter Parker. Something bad was going to happen, and the only way to stop it was to make every Parker. I'm Spider-Man. Sometimes Spider-Man has to do the hard thing, even if it breaks people. Excuse me, Doctor. I need your help.
Welcome to Z Cineplex, say your ultimate entertainment destination. Welcome to Z Cineplex, the home of entertainment, creativity, and cinematic excitement. Our channel is dedicated to bringing viewers a rich collection of engaging content that celebrates the world of movies, storytelling, and visual entertainment. Whether you're a passionate film enthusiast, someone who enjoys discovering new cinematic experiences, or simply looking for high-quality entertainment, Z Cineplex is designed to be your go-to destination. We strive to create content that is informative, enjoyable, and engaging for audiences of all ages, offering a unique blend of movie-related features, entertainment updates, insightful discussions, creative videos, and much more. Every upload is crafted with attention to quality, ensuring that our viewers receive an enjoyable experience that keeps them coming back for more. At Z Cineplex, we believe that cinema is more than just watching films. It's about experiencing emotions, exploring stories, appreciating creativity, and connecting with people who share the same passion for entertainment. Our mission is to build a vibrant community where movie lovers and entertainment enthusiasts can discover exciting content, share their opinions, and stay connected with the latest trends in the entertainment industry. We are committed to consistently improving our content, embracing new ideas, and delivering videos that entertain, inform, and inspire our growing audience. Whether you're here for movie highlights, entertainment discussions, reviews, cinematic moments, or fresh creative content, Z Cineplex promises an enjoyable journey filled with excitement, quality, and unforgettable entertainment. Join our community by subscribing, turning on notifications, and becoming part of the Z Cineplex family as we continue to explore the fascinating world of cinema and entertainment together. Thank you for your support, and welcome to Z Cineplex, where every video brings entertainment to life. Spider-Man: Brand New Day is a 2026 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics character Spider-Man, produced by Columbia Pictures, Marvel Studios, and Pascal Pictures, and distributed by Sony Pictures Releasing, serving as the 38th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, and the fourth installment in the MCU Spider-Man film series following Spider-Man: No Way Home, 2021. The film marks the beginning of a new chapter in Peter Parker's journey after the world has forgotten his identity due to Doctor Strange's reality-altering spell. Directed by Destin Cretton from a screenplay by longtime Spider-Man writers Chris McKenna and Eric Summers, the film stars Tom Holland reprising his role as Peter Parker, Spider-Man, alongside Zendaya, Sadie Sink, Jacob Batalon, John Bernthal, Florence Pugh, Tremaine Tillman, Marissa Tomei, and Mark Ruffalo. Set after the events of No Way Home, the story follows Peter as he embraces life as a truly independent, anonymous neighborhood hero, balancing the struggles of everyday survival while protecting New York City from emerging street-level criminal threats. As Peter investigates a mysterious and increasingly dangerous new enemy whose plans could reshape the city's criminal underworld, he discovers that his spider-based abilities are undergoing an unexpected and potentially unstable evolution, forcing him to confront both new physical challenges and difficult personal choices that test his resilience, morality, and identity. Development of a fourth MCU Spider-Man film began as early as August 2019, prior to the release of Spider-Man: No Way Home, following negotiations that kept Spider-Man within the MCU after Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios reached a revised partnership agreement. In November 2021, producer Amy Pascal confirmed that the project would launch an entirely new trilogy centered on Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Story development officially commenced the following month, with Holland taking a significantly more active creative role than he had on the previous films, contributing ideas for Peter Parker's next phase following the emotional conclusion of No Way Home. Screenwriters Chris McKenna and Eric Summers officially returned by February 2023, while Destin Daniel Cretton, fresh from directing Shanghai and the Legend of the Ten Rings, 2021, was hired in October 2024. The film's title, Spider-Man: Brand New Day, was officially unveiled in March 2025, taking inspiration from Marvel Comics' 2008 Brand New Day storyline, which similarly redefined Peter Parker's life after a reality-altering event. The filmmakers emphasized a return to Spider-Man's street-level roots, portraying Peter as a self-reliant, working-class superhero operating without the support of the Avengers or Stark technology. Ahead of production, it was announced that Jon Bernthal would reprise his MCU role as Frank Castle, Punisher, while Mark Ruffalo would return as Bruce Banner, Hulk, expanding the film's connections to the wider MCU while maintaining its grounded tone. Principal photography took place between August and December 2025, with extensive locations shooting in Glasgow, Scotland, which doubled for various parts of New York City, as well as additional filming across England. Interior scenes and large-scale action sequences were completed at Pinewood Studios in Buckinghamshire, utilizing a combination of practical sets, visual effects, and large-format cinematography. Spider-Man: Brand New Day held its world premiere at the Dolby Theatre in Hollywood, Los Angeles, on July 27, 2026, before receiving its theatrical release in the United States on July 31, 2026, as part of Phase 6 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Upon release, the film received generally positive reviews from critics, who praised Tom Holland's more mature and emotionally nuanced performance, Destin Daniel Cretton's grounded direction, the film's return to a neighborhood-focused Spider-Man story, and its blend of character-driven drama with high-stakes superhero action. Particular acclaim was directed toward the darker tone, the introduction of new supporting characters, and Peter Parker's continued emotional growth following the events of No Way Home. As of its opening weekend, the film has grossed approximately $73 million worldwide, with box office analysts expecting significantly stronger earnings as it continues its global theatrical rollout. Following the reality-altering spell cast by Dr. Stephen Strange at the conclusion of Spider-Man: No Way Home, every person on Earth has forgotten that Peter Parker exists or that he was ever Spider-Man. 4 years later, Peter lives an isolated existence in New York City, supporting himself through modest work while continuing to protect the city anonymously as its beloved neighborhood hero. Although Spider-Man has become a symbol of hope throughout New York, Peter has intentionally severed all personal connections, believing that distancing himself from others is the only way to keep them safe. Haunted by the sacrifices he made to save the multiverse and burdened by the loneliness of living in complete anonymity, Peter patrols the city alone, determined to embrace the responsibility that comes with being Spider-Man without relying on friends, family, or the Avengers. Peter's routine is disrupted when a military tank suddenly rampages through Manhattan before crashing into the headquarters of the Department of Damage Control, DOD. Investigating the attack, Spider-Man discovers that the tank's operator is being controlled by an unknown telepathic entity capable of jumping from one host to another simply through physical contact. The elusive psychic escapes capture by transferring its consciousness between civilians and DOD personnel, creating widespread confusion and allowing several dangerous prisoners to flee the facility, including Mac Gargan, an enhanced criminal whom Spider-Man had previously captured. Seeking answers, Peter contacts Yelena Belova, who has been independently monitoring unusual DOD activities. She reveals that the agency has suffered multiple mysterious attacks from someone searching for an unidentified object or person connected to the code name VMAX. Peter subsequently questions senior DOD official Bill Metzger, but Metzger denies any knowledge of the telepath or the repeated break-ins, raising Peter's suspicions about the agency's true intentions. While investigating the attacks, Peter unexpectedly encounters his former best friend Ned Leeds and former girlfriend Michelle MJ Jones-Watson, who have recently returned to New York after graduating from college. As intended by Strange's spell, neither of them recognizes Peter despite his emotional attempts to reconnect. Peter is further devastated to discover that MJ has begun a new relationship and has built a happy life without him. Heartbroken, he quietly walks away, accepting once again the painful consequences of his decision to sacrifice his identity. The emotional toll is compounded the following morning when Peter awakens to discover alarming changes in his body. His senses have become significantly sharper, his physical abilities have intensified beyond anything he has previously experienced, and, most shockingly, he has begun producing organic webbing directly from his wrists, eliminating his dependence on mechanical web shooters. Unsure whether these mutations are a delayed consequence of his radioactive spider bite or the result of recent multiversal events, Peter struggles to control his rapidly evolving powers. Peter soon tracks down Mac Gargan, who has once again become possessed by the mysterious telepath while attempting another assault on the DOD facility. During their confrontation, the possessed Gargan taunts Peter about his loneliness and emotional weakness, provoking an unusually violent reaction. Overcome by anger amplified by his unstable mutations, Peter viciously beats Gargan into unconsciousness, shocking himself with the brutality of his actions and realizing that his evolving powers may also be affecting his emotional control. Fearful that he could become a danger to innocent people, Peter seeks guidance from Dr. Bruce Banner, who explains the technology he developed to suppress the Hulk's transformations through specialized inhibitor devices. Inspired by Banner's research, Peter constructs a prototype inhibitor designed to regulate his enhanced spider mutations while simultaneously beginning work on a second device intended to neutralize the telepath's psychic abilities. Before Peter can complete his inventions, the telepath infiltrates his apartment by possessing multiple individuals before assuming the appearance of MJ herself. Exploiting Peter's unresolved feelings, she emotionally manipulates him into lowering his guard, eventually tricking him into revealing his face and even kissing him while disguised as MJ. Although Peter ultimately recognizes the deception and narrowly rescues the real MJ from danger, the encounter leaves him emotionally devastated. However, during the confrontation he briefly sees the telepath's true form and secretly captures an image of her using Spider-Man's suit HUD, providing the first concrete clue to her identity. Recognizing that MJ has become a target, Peter secretly takes her to a fortified safe house operated by Frank Castle, the vigilante known as the Punisher. While Castle reluctantly provides weapons, surveillance equipment, and tactical support, MJ unknowingly helps Peter complete both inhibitor devices through observations she makes during their conversations. Using the image captured earlier, Peter finally identifies the mysterious telepath as Jean Grey, an extraordinarily powerful mutant with immense psychic and telekinetic abilities. Soon afterward, Jean launches another assault on the DOD headquarters, this time openly confronting the agency while mentally controlling Bruce Banner's Hulk as her unwilling weapon. Peter manages to free Hulk from her influence, subdue Jean using his experimental inhibitor, and surrender her to Metzger and the DOD. During the transfer, Metzger casually remarks that while searching Jean's memories, he repeatedly encountered references to someone named Sarah, suggesting that her attacks are motivated by something far more personal than simple revenge. Afterward, Peter returns to MJ, who has discovered the heartfelt letter he originally wrote after Strange's spell, explaining who he truly is and why she no longer remembers him. Peter finally tells her the truth about their shared history, his identity, and the sacrifice that erased him from everyone's memories. Although MJ sympathizes with his pain, she gently apologizes because she cannot remember any of the experiences that once connected them or return the love he still feels. Nevertheless, she invites Peter to spend time with her and Ned as a new friend, allowing the three to begin forming an entirely new relationship built on honesty rather than forgotten memories. As Peter continues investigating the dog, he realizes Metzger has been lying. MJ reveals that victims possessed by Jean have no memory of anything that occurred during their possession, contradicting Metzger's claim that Jean willingly revealed information inside his mind. Peter contacts Yelena once again, and together they uncover heavily redacted dog files revealing that Sarah was Jean Grey's younger sister, who had been secretly abducted and imprisoned by the agency during illegal experiments involving psychic individuals. The only message Jean ever received from Sarah was the cryptic phrase VMAX. Although Metzger dismissed it as meaningless, Jean eventually realizes that VMAX referred to the label printed on an air vent above Sarah's prison cell, the final thing Sarah saw before dying in captivity. The revelation shatters Jean emotionally, unleashing the full extent of her psychic powers. Overwhelmed by grief and rage, she telepathically seals off New York City, trapping millions of civilians while taking complete mental control of the surrounding area. Because of his unique physiology and evolving spider mutations, Peter proves partially resistant to Jean's overwhelming psychic influence and infiltrates the dot headquarters to confront her. Jean defends herself by mentally controlling an army of hand ninjas, forcing Spider-Man into one of the most difficult battles of his career. Realizing that he cannot defeat her while suppressing his own abilities, Peter removes his inhibitor entirely and fully embraces his ongoing mutation. His powers evolve dramatically, granting him extraordinary strength, heightened speed and agility, accelerated healing, vastly enhanced spider senses, and fully developed organic web production. Rather than trying to overpower Jean physically, Peter allows her to enter his mind willingly. There, she experiences his memories of Aunt May, witnessing May's unconditional love, her acceptance of Peter's gifts, and her unwavering belief that true strength comes from compassion rather than vengeance. Deeply moved by these memories, Jean begins to question her desire for revenge. At that moment, Frank Castle attempts to assassinate Jean from outside the building with a sniper rifle. Peter instinctively throws himself into the line of fire, protecting Jean and suffering a catastrophic, near-fatal gunshot wound. Peter later awakens in a hospital, where Frank Castle explains that despite everything that had happened, Jean used her immense psychic abilities to keep Peter alive while doctors struggled to save him. Realizing that Peter had shown her the compassion and forgiveness she had lost, Jean quietly leaves New York to begin searching for a new purpose. In the aftermath of the crisis, the Department of Damage Control becomes the subject of a sweeping federal investigation for its illegal human experimentation and cover-up surrounding Sarah's death. Peter comes to understand that Aunt May's lesson about responsibility also means allowing others into his life rather than carrying every burden alone. Determined to embrace hope instead of isolation, he approaches Ned once more and, for the first time since Strange's spell erased him from history, simply introduces himself, taking the first step toward building genuine friendships again. In a mid-credits scene, authorities begin examining the aftermath of the Dot scandal while mysterious evidence hints that Jean Grey's immense psychic powers have attracted the attention of other powerful forces beyond Earth. In the post-credits scene, Ned's homemade Spidey tracker, which he jokingly created years earlier, unexpectedly activates and displays Spider-Man's signal somewhere far beyond Earth, teasing Peter Parker's next cosmic adventure within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Tom Holland stars as Peter Parker, Spider-Man, a former Avenger who gained extraordinary spider-like abilities after being bitten by a radioactive spider. Following Dr. Stephen Strange's reality-altering spell at the end of Spider-Man: No Way Home, 2021, the entire world has forgotten Peter Parker's existence, leaving him completely alone and forcing him to rebuild his life from nothing. 4 years later, Peter has embraced life as New York City's anonymous neighborhood Spider-Man, dedicating every aspect of his existence to protecting innocent people while deliberately avoiding personal relationships to ensure that no one else suffers because of him. Director Destin Cretton described this version of Peter as someone who has dedicated his entire existence to being Spider-Man, portraying the character at his most isolated and self-sacrificing. Holland explained that the film presents one of the most emotionally profound stories in the character's history, exploring the psychological consequences of Peter's unwavering commitment to responsibility, heroism, and selflessness. As Peter struggles with loneliness, grief, and the painful realization that his former friends have successfully moved on without him, his emotional and physical stress unexpectedly triggers a dramatic evolution of his spider powers. Throughout the film, Peter develops heightened sensory perception, significantly enhanced agility, greater physical strength and reflexes, accelerated healing, and the unprecedented ability to produce organic webbing directly from his wrists, eliminating his dependence on mechanical web shooters. The mutation also causes periods of instability in which his eyes turn completely black, his aggression intensifies, and he briefly loses emotional control, reflecting the dangerous changes occurring within his body. Holland noted that Peter's journey mirrors his own transition into adulthood, with the film focusing heavily on identity, maturity, sacrifice, and learning that true strength comes not only from responsibility but also from accepting the support of others. Zendaya reprises her role as Michelle M.J. Jones Watson, Peter Parker's former classmate and girlfriend, who now attends the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, alongside Ned Leeds. Because of Strange's spell, MJ has no memory of Peter or the relationship they once shared, allowing her to build a new life free from the trauma of Spider-Man's world. She shares an apartment with Ned in New York City after graduating and has entered a new romantic relationship, creating an emotionally painful conflict for Peter as he watches the woman he still loves move on without him. Although she no longer recognizes Peter, MJ remains naturally curious, intelligent, and compassionate, gradually becoming involved in Spider-Man's investigation into the mysterious psychic attacks affecting the city. As the story unfolds, she unknowingly helps Peter solve several key mysteries surrounding the Department of Damage Control and Jean Grey while beginning to form an entirely new friendship with him, even though she cannot recover the memories of their former relationship. Sadie Sink joins the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Jean Grey, an immensely powerful mutant possessing extraordinary genetic abilities that include telepathy, telekinesis, mind control, psychic projection, and the ability to possess other individuals by transferring her consciousness between hosts. Secretly imprisoned and experimented upon by the Department of Damage Control, DOD, because of her mutant abilities, Jean escapes captivity after discovering the truth behind the disappearance and death of her sister, Sora Grey. Initially appearing as the film's primary antagonist, Jean repeatedly attacks DOD facilities while searching for clues connected to the cryptic code name VMAX. Her immense psychic powers make her one of Spider-Man's most dangerous opponents, allowing her to manipulate civilians, control the Hulk, and eventually lock down New York City through an overwhelming telepathic barrier. However, as Peter uncovers the tragedy surrounding Jean's past, the conflict evolves into a deeply emotional story about grief, trauma, forgiveness, and redemption, culminating in Peter helping Jean overcome her desire for vengeance through compassion rather than violence. Jacob Batalon returns as Ned Leeds, Peter Parker's former best friend and fellow MIT graduate. Like everyone else, Ned has completely forgotten Peter due to Strange's spell, though he subconsciously feels that an important part of his life is missing. Fascinated by Spider-Man after repeatedly being rescued by the hero during high school, Ned develops a smartphone application known as Spidey Tracker, hoping to discover Spider-Man's true identity so he can personally thank him. Batalon explained that although Ned and MJ appear to have fulfilling lives, both characters experience an unexplained emotional void that neither can understand. Ned's determination to identify Spider-Man reflects his subconscious desire to reconnect with the forgotten friendship that once defined his life. As Peter gradually rebuilds a friendship with Ned under a new identity, the film explores whether genuine relationships can transcend even magically erased memories. Jon Bernthal reprises his role as Frank Castle, Punisher, the ruthless vigilante who wages an uncompromising war against organized crime following the murder of his family. The film continues Castle's story after the Disney Plus special The Punisher: One Last Kill, 2026. Depicting a man who has largely withdrawn from society and abandoned any belief in human goodness. Operating from Golden Girl, a heavily fortified houseboat converted from an industrial barge, Castle uses the vessel as both a command center and safe house while continuing his violent campaign against New York's criminal underworld. Producer Kevin Feige explained that although Castle remains as uncompromising as ever, the film presents a version of the character adopted to the MCU's PG-13 tone while preserving his hardened personality. During production, Tom Holland and Jon Bernthal frequently improvised scenes together, resulting in an evolving dynamic that shifts from mutual hostility to an emotionally layered big brother-little brother relationship. Holland described Peter and Frank as characters suffering from similar emotional wounds, allowing Castle to become an unexpected mentor who encourages Peter to confront his inner turmoil rather than suppress it. The film also marks the live-action debut of the Punisher's battle van, faithfully adapted from the Marvel Comics. Florence Pugh reprises her role as Yelena Belova, Black Widow, a highly skilled assassin and member of the New Avengers who was trained in the infamous Red Room. Serving as one of Peter's few trusted allies, Yelena assists his investigation into the Department of Damage Control's hidden operations by providing intelligence, conducting covert reconnaissance, and uncovering classified files relating to Jean Grey and the mysterious VMAX project. Her experience as a former spy and operative proves invaluable as the conspiracy surrounding the dot grows increasingly dangerous. Tremaine Tillman portrays William Bill Metzger, the ambitious and calculating director of the Department of Damage Control, the government agency responsible for monitoring and containing enhanced individuals and advanced technology. Publicly presenting himself as an ally of Spider-Man, Metzger secretly conceals the Doc's unethical experimentation on mutants and manipulates Peter into assisting his investigation while hiding his own involvement in Jean Grey's imprisonment. As the story progresses, Metzger's deception is gradually exposed, revealing him as one of the central figures responsible for the tragedy surrounding Jean and Sarah Grey. Marissa Tomei returns as May Parker, Peter's beloved aunt, appearing through emotionally significant flashbacks, memories, and visions that continue to influence Peter long after her death. Her lessons about compassion, sacrifice, and responsibility remain the emotional foundation of Peter's character, ultimately inspiring him to save Jean Grey through empathy rather than vengeance. May's enduring presence reinforces the film's central message that true heroism is defined by kindness and understanding even in the face of immense loss. Mark Ruffalo reprises his role as Dr. Bruce Banner, Hulk, the brilliant scientist and founding Avenger whose exposure to gamma radiation allows him to transform into the Hulk. By the events of Spider-Man: Brand New Day, Banner has become a professor of quantum mechanics at Empire State University, ISU, while continuing his scientific research into gamma radiation and human mutation. Peter turns to Banner for advice after his spider powers begin evolving uncontrollably, leading Banner to explain the inhibitor technology he developed to regulate his Hulk transformations. Inspired by Banner's work, Peter creates his own inhibitor device in an effort to stabilize his increasingly dangerous mutations. Later in this film, Banner is mentally possessed by Jean Grey, causing him to revert from his controlled Smart Hulk persona to the far more destructive and unpredictable Savage Hulk, creating one of Spider-Man's greatest physical challenges before Banner is eventually freed from Jean's psychic control. Returning Marvel Cinematic Universe cast members also include Michael Mando as Mac Gargan, Scorpion, the enhanced criminal first introduced in Spider-Man: Homecoming, 2017, who escapes from Dodd custody wearing his iconic mechanized Scorpion armor equipped with the powerful cybernetic tail, and Sabrina Guevara as Sheila Rivera, the newly elected mayor of New York City, who oversees the city's response to the escalating superhuman crisis. Liza Coley Cubed and Zayas portrays Jean the Wolf, an experienced detective with the New York City Police Department investigating the mysterious attacks across Manhattan, while Marvin Jones appears as notorious crime boss Lonnie Lincoln, Tombstone, whose near-indestructible skin and superhuman strength make him one of the city's most feared underworld figures. Ms. Fandy portrays MJ's new boyfriend, whose relationship with her becomes a painful reminder of everything Peter sacrificed. Olivia Booth Ford portrays Sora Gray, Jean Grey's equally gifted mutant sister whose imprisonment and death at the hands of the Department of Damage Control ultimately drive Jean's quest for vengeance. Billy Clements appears as the cybernetically enhanced supervillain Ramrod, while Naomi Watts voices Evie, Peter Parker's advanced artificial intelligence assistant that supports his investigations and assists with combat analysis throughout the film. Veteran actor Keith David provides narration for a spider-themed nature documentary that Peter watches early in the story, subtly foreshadowing the evolution of his own biology. The film also features appearances by comic book villains Boomerang and Tarantula, members of the ancient ninja organization The Hand, led by martial artist and stunt performer Fanzio Schwang, as well as longtime New York News anchor Pat Kiernan, once again portraying himself. Tony Revolori and Martin Starr also make cameo appearances through photographs depicting their respective MCU characters Flash Thompson and Roger Harrington, serving as poignant reminders of the life Peter Parker lost after the events of Spider-Man: No Way Home. Development of a fourth Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, Spider-Man film began long before Spider-Man: No Way Home, 2021, reached theaters. In August 2019, reports indicated that Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios were simultaneously planning both the third and fourth installments of the MCU Spider-Man series, reflecting the tremendous commercial and critical success of Spider-Man: Homecoming, 2017, and Spider-Man: Far From Home, 2019. However, later that month, negotiations between Sony and Disney over the future of their Spider-Man partnership collapsed, resulting in Sony announcing that Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige would no longer produce future Spider-Man films. The news prompted an overwhelming negative reaction from fans worldwide, leading both companies to resume negotiations. In September 2019, Sony and Disney reached a revised agreement that restored Marvel Studios' creative involvement and allowed Feige to produce Spider-Man: No Way Home, while also laying the groundwork for additional collaborations featuring the character. This renewed partnership ultimately ensured that Spider-Man would remain integrated within the broader Marvel Cinematic Universe while continuing to be distributed by Sony Pictures. Throughout 2021, discussions regarding the future of Tom Holland's Spider-Man intensified. In February, Holland revealed that No Way Home was the final film covered under his existing contract with Sony and Marvel, although he expressed hope that he would eventually return to the role. During promotional interviews later that year, Zendaya admitted that she had no knowledge of whether another MCU Spider-Man film would be produced, while Holland described No Way Home as the emotional conclusion of the trilogy that began with Homecoming. He emphasized that any future films would need to move in a significantly different creative direction, abandoning the coming-of-age tone of the first three installments in favor of a more mature story reflecting Peter Parker's adulthood. Holland also expressed uncertainty about portraying Spider-Man indefinitely, explaining that he did not want to still be playing Peter Parker well into his 30s and even suggested that the Miles Morales version of Spider-Man deserved his own live-action film. Despite Holland's reservations, producer Amy Pascal confirmed in November 2021 that work had already begun on an entirely new Spider-Man trilogy starring Holland. Around the same time, Kevin Feige revealed that Marvel Studios, Sony Pictures, Pascal, and Disney had already started discussing the next chapter of Peter Parker's story, which would directly continue from the heartbreaking ending of Spider-Man: No Way Home, where Peter sacrifices his identity by allowing Doctor Strange's spell to erase him from everyone's memories. By 2022, development remained active despite no formal announcement. After longtime Spider-Man director John Watts stepped away from Marvel Studios' Fantastic Four project, Sony initially hoped he would return to direct the fourth Spider-Man film. Sony Pictures chairman Tom Rothman publicly stated that he hoped the core creative team, including Watts, Holland, and Zendaya, would reunite. However, Watts ultimately chose not to return, opening the search for a new filmmaker who could redefine the franchise's direction. Meanwhile, Marvel Studios continued developing the screenplay, focusing on a more grounded and emotionally driven story that would explore Peter Parker's complete isolation following the events of No Way Home. In February 2023, Kevin Feige confirmed that Marvel Studios already had a story featuring big ideas and that longtime Spider-Man screenwriters Chris McKenna and Eric Summers had begun writing the screenplay. Development was temporarily halted several months later by the 2023 Writers Guild of America strike, forcing the creative team to pause production until the labor dispute concluded. Producer Amy Pascal confirmed that writing would immediately resume once the strike ended. During this period, Tom Holland revealed that he had participated extensively in story meetings discussing the ambitions and direction of the fourth film before the strike interrupted progress. Holland explained that he was pleased with the creative reasons for continuing Peter Parker's story but remained cautious about producing a fourth installment simply for commercial purposes, acknowledging the mixed reputation that fourth films often carry within major franchises. While he believed No Way Home had provided the perfect emotional conclusion for Peter's original trilogy, he emphasized that he would only return if the new story genuinely respected the character's legacy and justified revisiting his journey. Following the end of the writers' strike in September 2023, active development accelerated considerably. Holland confirmed that creative discussions had resumed and explained that he had spent considerable time studying fan reactions online to better understand what audiences wanted from Spider-Man's next adventure. Rather than another multiverse-spanning spectacle, Holland observed that many fans wanted a more personal, street-level story centered on Peter Parker himself rather than the fate of the universe. He brought this perspective into meetings with Marvel Studios and Sony, arguing that Spider-Man should once again become a relatable neighborhood hero struggling with everyday challenges. One of Holland's most significant creative contributions involved proposing that Peter's spider abilities evolve in a manner resembling puberty, introducing unpredictable biological mutations that reflected his emotional state. Marvel's creative team embraced the concept, eventually expanding it into one of the film's central storylines. Holland also joked that another idea of giving Peter Parker a pet toga was quickly discarded during development. Unlike the previous Spider-Man films, Holland became deeply involved in the creative process from its earliest stages, contributing ideas months before the screenplay was finalized. Throughout early 2024, numerous reports emerged regarding the project's progress. Industry journalist Jeff Snyder reported that Marvel Studios had considered Drew Goddard and Justin Lin among its potential directing candidates while confirming that Chris McKenna and Eric Summers had returned to write the screenplay. Holland and Zendaya were also expected to reprise their roles, although Zendaya's increasingly busy schedule including HBO's Euphoria and Dune Part 3 raised questions regarding the size of her role. In contrast, Variety reported that no director or filming schedule had yet been finalized because Marvel Studios continued refining the screenplay. Holland reiterated during interviews that the filmmakers were intentionally giving the writers additional time after the strike to perfect the script, explaining that protecting the legacy of the previous trilogy was more important than rushing into production. Kevin Feige later confirmed that a completed screenplay draft was expected during the summer while also acknowledging that John Watts' increasingly busy schedule made his return unlikely. After several months of screenplay revisions, Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures began meeting with potential directors before ultimately selecting Destin Cretton as their preferred choice. By September 2024, Cretton had entered formal negotiations to direct the project after previously directing Marvel Studios' Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, 2021. Having stepped away from directing what eventually became Avengers: Doomsday, 2026, Cretton met with Kevin Feige to discuss future MCU projects, during which the fourth Spider-Man film emerged as an ideal opportunity. Marvel Studios ultimately prioritized Spider-Man over a Shang-Chi sequel, recognizing the importance of continuing Peter Parker's story after No Way Home. At the same time, McKenna and Summers were officially confirmed as screenwriters, while Holland and Zendaya entered negotiations to reprise their roles. Cretton, Feige, and Amy Pascal shared a creative vision focused on telling a grounded, emotionally intimate Spider-Man story that explored Peter's complete isolation after sacrificing his identity. Cretton described Peter as someone who was completely alone in every sense, believing that this emotional starting point offered exciting storytelling possibilities very different from previous MCU Spider-Man films. Development experienced another significant scheduling adjustment in October 2024 after Tom Holland was cast in Christopher Nolan's epic film The Odyssey, 2026. To accommodate Holland's commitment, Sony agreed to delay the start of principal photography by approximately 6 months, allowing him to complete Nolan's production before returning to Spider-Man. Holland later explained that Sony's willingness to adjust the schedule demonstrated the studio's respect both for him and for Nolan. The additional development period also benefited the screenplay, allowing Cretton and the writers to continue refining the story. During this extended development phase, acclaimed screenwriter Justin Kurtz's, who had previously collaborated with Zendaya on Challengers, 2024, assisted Cretton with script revisions. Although Kurtz's contributed substantially to later drafts, only Chris McKenna and Eric Summers ultimately received official screenplay credit under Writers Guild regulations. Holland later revealed that after reading one of the revised drafts alongside Zendaya, both actors were excited by its direction but still believed additional refinement was necessary, particularly to ensure that the film fit naturally within Marvel Studios' broader plans for the multiverse saga. By late 2024, speculation surrounding the project intensified. Industry reports suggested that the screenplay had at various stages included alien symbiotes, new classmates for Peter Parker, Mephisto, and the return of Charlie Cox's Daredevil. Though many of these rumors were ultimately disproven or abandoned during development, Charlie Cox publicly denied his involvement, while J.K. Simmons similarly stated that he would not reprise his role as J. Jonah Jameson. Several rumored concepts including multiversal storylines and additional legacy characters were ultimately removed as Marvel Studios committed to a more grounded narrative centered almost entirely on Peter Parker's emotional recovery and life as New York City's friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. This creative shift reflected both audience demand and the filmmakers' desire to differentiate Spider-Man: Brand New Day from the multiverse spectacle of No Way Home, establishing the film as the beginning of an entirely new era for Tom Holland's Spider-Man within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Principal photography for Spider-Man: Brand New Day officially commenced on August 3, 2025, in Glasgow, Scotland, under the working title Blue Oasis. The production united director Destin Cretton with acclaimed cinematographer Brett Pollock, who had previously collaborated with Cretton on several of his films and helped establish the movie's grounded yet visually dynamic aesthetic. Filming had originally been scheduled to begin in early 2025 but was postponed by approximately 6 months after Tom Holland committed to starring in Christopher Nolan's epic film The Odyssey, 2026. Rather than viewing the delay as a setback, the additional time allowed the filmmakers to further refine the screenplay, expand practical set construction, and meticulously prepare complex action sequences. Holland also brought valuable experience from working with Nolan, explaining that he was inspired by Nolan's disciplined and highly organized filmmaking process. He encouraged the production to adopt a similar approach, ensuring that every shooting day was carefully planned in advance with the precise understanding of the desired emotional tone, camera coverage, and action choreography instead of discovering those elements during filming. Holland also advocated for an emphasis on practical stunt work wherever possible, believing that authentic physical performances would create a more grounded Spider-Man than audiences had previously seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. To recreate Peter Parker's familiar New York City environment, the production transformed large sections of Glasgow into the borough of Queens, taking advantage of the city's architecture and adaptable streets. Elaborate exterior sets depicting approximately 3 full city blocks were simultaneously constructed at Pinewood Studios in Buckinghamshire, England. Rather than focusing primarily on street-level locations, the filmmakers designed these sets around rooftops, fire escapes, and elevated pathways inspired by neighborhoods surrounding the Queensboro Bridge, allowing Spider-Man's movement through the city to feel more natural and comic book accurate. Extensive location filming took place throughout Glasgow's city centre, including Merchant City, George Square, and Strong 8, where numerous sequences portraying everyday life in New York and several large-scale action scenes were filmed. Holland described beginning production on real city streets as an exciting return to the filmmaking style of Spider-Man: Homecoming, 2017, contrasting it with Spider-Man: No Way Home, 2021, whose production had been heavily restricted to soundstages because of the COVID-19 pandemic. He expressed particular satisfaction that fans were once again able to witness the cast and crew filming on location throughout the city. The film's ambitious stunt work was coordinated by Peng Zhang, a member of the internationally renowned Jackie Chan stunt team, who returned after previously choreographing action for Shanghai and the Legend of the Ten Rings, 2021, and several other Marvel Studios productions. Under Zhang's supervision, the action sequences emphasized practical wire work, close-quarters combat, and dynamic acrobatics that reflected Spider-Man's agility while minimizing reliance on computer-generated imagery whenever feasible. Many of Spider-Man's combat techniques were directly inspired by Insomniac Games' Marvel's Spider-Man video game series, with Tom Holland specifically requesting that several of the character's signature finishing moves be incorporated into the choreography. Holland also became more creatively involved during filming than on any previous Spider-Man production, feeling confident enough to halt production on one emotional scene shared with Zendaya after both actors agreed it required further refinement before continuing. This collaborative atmosphere was encouraged by Cretton, who welcomed creative input from his cast throughout principal photography. During the earliest weeks of filming, numerous photographs from the Glasgow set attracted widespread online speculation. Images revealed armored military vehicles bearing an unfamiliar red demon insignia, prompting fans and journalists to theorize that the emblem referenced the Inner Demons, the criminal organization led by Mr. Negative in Marvel Comics. Other set photographs displayed a large rhinoceros-shaped reference sculpture, leading to speculation regarding the possible appearance of Rhino. While these details generated significant discussion among fans during production, many were ultimately revealed to be visual misdirection or background world-building elements rather than confirmations of major comic book characters. John Bernthal filmed his scenes shortly after completing production on the Disney Plus special The Punisher: One Last Kill, 2026, allowing his portrayal of Frank Castle, Punisher, to transition directly into the events of Brand New Day. On August 7, 2025, filming moved to Brookwood Cemetery in Surrey, England, for emotionally significant sequences before returning to Glasgow, where production was extended until August 18 to accommodate additional scenes, including the filming of a fictional commercial. Toward the end of August, Tremaine Tillman officially joined the production as William Bill Metzger, director of the Department of Damage Control. A longtime fan of superhero films, Tillman expressed enthusiasm about joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film introduces a newly established headquarters in New York City equipped with advanced weaponry reverse-engineered from recovered extraterrestrial technology, including equipment derived from the Chitauri, Sicarans, and even technology associated with Rocket Raccoon, further expanding the MCU's interconnected world. For most of September 2025, production shifted primarily to Pinewood Studios, where extensive interior environments and large-scale action sequences were filmed on purpose-built soundstages. Although Mark Ruffalo had initially stated that he had not yet received a complete script for his role, he soon joined production to film scenes involving Bruce Banner and the Hulk. Meanwhile, newcomer Sadie Sink, despite already knowing she had been cast as Jean Grey, did not receive the full screenplay until arriving in London shortly before filming began. Her first scenes were shot in Battersea Park between early and mid-September. During production on September 19, Tom Holland sustained a minor concussion while performing one of the film's demanding practical stunts on the Pinewood set. Out of concern for the actor's health, production was temporarily suspended because the majority of scheduled scenes centered on Spider-Man and could not easily be rearranged. Filming resumed on September 29 after Holland had fully recovered, with the brief interruption having no significant impact on the film's release schedule. Toward the end of September, it was officially revealed that Marvin Jones III had been cast as Lonnie Lincoln, Tombstone, having previously voiced an alternate version of the character in the animated film Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, 2018. Additional filming then took place at Phantom House in Basingstoke, England, where one of Holland's stunt doubles initially completed several physically demanding sequences before Holland himself joined production in early October alongside Michael Mando, who reprised his role as Mac Gargan, Scorpion. Later that month, Holland, Sadie Sink, and Mark Ruffalo were photographed filming key scenes at Senate House in central London. Production subsequently moved to Ravenscourt Park in early November before spending much of the remainder of the month filming inside Prison Dorchester in Dorset, whose historic architecture served as the backdrop for several important sequences involving the Department of Damage Control. Director Destin Cretton officially announced the completion of principal photography on December 19, 2025, describing the experience of directing Spider-Man, Brand New Day as one of the roles of a lifetime. Tom Holland similarly called the production the most creatively fulfilling filming experience of his career, praising Cretton's collaborative directing style and expressing confidence that the film represented the strongest Spider-Man story they had produced together. Holland credited Cretton with encouraging experimentation while maintaining a clear artistic vision, allowing both the emotional drama and superhero spectacle to evolve naturally throughout production. Because the Hulk is realized primarily through motion capture performance and computer-generated imagery, many of Mark Ruffalo's scenes required him to perform in specialized performance capture equipment rather than traditional costumes. Although Destin Cretton initially assumed Ruffalo would not need to appear physically on set during many Hulk sequences, Ruffalo ultimately worked extensively alongside Tom Holland, whose direct interaction with the motion capture process created what he humorously described as one of the strangest filming experiences of his career. Several of the film's most visually striking sequences were designed as live-action recreations of iconic Spider-Man comic book covers. To faithfully capture these stylized poses, certain shots were filmed at an extraordinary 420 frames per second. An exceptionally high frame rate that Cretton acknowledged was extremely demanding for performers. One particularly challenging sequence depicting Spider-Man diving into battle against the Hand required more than 65 takes before the filmmakers achieved the precise visual composition they envisioned. By contrast, Holland successfully recreated the famous cover pose from Spider-Man Adventures No. 2 in only 2 or 3 attempts, prompting Cretton to praise the actor's remarkable physical control and athletic precision. Spider-Man, Brand New Day also became the first feature film to shoot specially designed footage for the screen's theatrical format. Engineers and technicians from CJ Fordplex worked directly with the production team to capture additional panoramic imagery that would extend beyond the main screen onto ScreenX's side panels, creating a fully immersive 270-degree viewing experience during selected action sequences. The film was photographed in the 2.39:1 widescreen aspect ratio, with several key scenes specially formatted for IMAX exhibition. Cretton believed Spider-Man's fluid movement through New York City's skyline and the film's emotionally intimate yet visually expansive storytelling made it particularly well suited to the large-format IMAX experience, allowing audiences to experience both the spectacular action and the character-driven moments on an appropriately grand cinematic scale. Edit post-production on Spider-Man, Brand New Day began immediately after principal photography concluded in December 2025, with the film entering an extensive period of editing, visual effects work, sound design, and additional photography that continued through the first half of 2026. In January 2026, Deadline Hollywood reported that Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige had spent much of the previous year focused on the large-scale productions of Avengers, Doomsday, 2026, and its sequel Avengers, Secret Wars, 2027, leading to speculation that longtime Spider-Man producer Amy Pascal had assumed greater day-to-day responsibility for overseeing Brand New Day. Director Destin Cretton publicly rejected the suggestion that the film had become a secondary priority, emphasizing that although Feige's schedule was unusually demanding, Brand New Day was never placed on the back burner. Cretton explained that Feige remained actively involved throughout post-production and continued to collaborate closely with Pascal and Sony Pictures chairman Tom Rothman on creative decisions involving the film's tone, visual effects, story structure, and its integration within the broader Marvel Cinematic Universe. In addition to Feige and Pascal, veteran Spider-Man producer Robbie Arad served as a producer on the project alongside Rachel O'Connor, bringing together many of the key creative figures who had shaped previous Spider-Man films across both Sony and Marvel Studios. One of the earliest major milestones of post-production came in March 2026, when the film's first official trailer was released. The trailer provided audiences with their first substantial look at the movie's darker, more street-level approach and confirmed the long-rumored appearance of the Hand, the ancient ninja organization previously featured in Marvel's Netflix television series. The filmmakers explained that the organization had been effectively leaderless since the events of the earlier series and suggested that it was now poised to reach its full potential under new leadership. The trailer also introduced Fan Xiaoshuang, a stunt performer and martial artist who portrayed the Hand's mysterious new leader after previously contributing action work to Marvel Studios productions such as Shanghai and The Legend of the Ten Rings, 2021, and The Marvels, 2023. The preview further revealed that Sabrina Guevara was reprising her role as Sheila Rivera, the newly elected mayor of New York City previously introduced in Daredevil, Born Again, and showcased the ceremonial scene in which Rivera presents Spider-Man with the symbolic key to New York City, reflecting the hero's growing status as a beloved public figure despite the world having forgotten Peter Parker's identity. The trailer additionally confirmed that Emily's Fandy portrayed MJ's new romantic interest and teased the emotional tension created by Peter's inability to reclaim the life he lost after Spider-Man: No Way Home. Another point of discussion among fans was the presence of veteran actor Keith David, whose role was initially kept secret before later being confirmed as the narrator of a nature documentary about spiders that Peter watches early in the film, a scene designed to subtly foreshadow the biological evolution of Spider-Man's powers. During April 2026, Tom Holland revealed that the production had returned to London for a period of additional photography, a common practice on major Marvel Studios productions used to refine pacing, strengthen character interactions, and enhance action sequences after the initial assembly of the film. Holland explained that the primary purpose of these reshoots was not to fundamentally alter the story but to inject additional humor into several scenes and to rework the presentation of an unspecified villain-related subplot in a more effective way. He emphasized that the film had already been functioning well creatively before the new material was added, describing the extra photography as icing on the cake rather than a rescue effort. The additional filming allowed Destin Cretton to fine-tune the balance between the film's emotionally heavy exploration of Peter Parker's loneliness and the lighter, character-driven moments that have traditionally defined the Spider-Man franchise. Editors also used this period to streamline the film's pacing and strengthen the evolving relationships between Peter, MJ, Ned, and Frank Castle. Throughout the remainder of post-production, visual effects artists focused heavily on realizing Spider-Man's evolving powers, particularly the transition from mechanical web shooters to organic web generation, the temporary blackening of Peter's eyes during moments of instability, and the increasingly aggressive physical transformations associated with his mutation. Significant resources were also devoted to Jean Grey's psychic abilities, including large-scale telepathic possession sequences, telekinetic destruction, and the climactic city-wide psychic barrier that engulfs New York. Additional effects work was required for Bruce Banner's regression into the Savage Hulk persona, combining Mark Ruffalo's motion capture performance with extensive CGI enhancements to distinguish this version of the Hulk from the more controlled Smart Hulk seen in previous MCU films. Sound designers simultaneously developed a more grounded sonic identity for the film, giving Spider-Man's new organic webbing a distinctly biological texture and creating layered audio effects for Jean Grey's telepathic presence that subtly changed depending on whose mind she was inhabiting. In mid-July 2026, Kevin Feige publicly confirmed that Florence Pugh would reprise her Marvel Cinematic Universe role as Yelena Belova, Black Widow in Spider-Man: Brand New Day, positioning the film chronologically ahead of her major role in Avengers: Doomsday. The confirmation reinforced the movie's connections to the wider MCU while maintaining its primarily street-level focus. Later that month, Pugh's appearance was officially announced as part of the film's final marketing campaign. Around the same time, Rosario Dawson revealed that she had filmed a scene reprising her role as Claire Temple from Marvel's Netflix television universe. Although the sequence was completed during production, it was ultimately removed during the final editing process because the filmmakers felt it disrupted the pacing and shifted attention away from Peter Parker's central emotional journey. Dawson explained that while she was disappointed the scene was cut, she understood the creative decision and remained supportive of the finished film. As post-production neared completion, several additional casting details were revealed. Tiffany Espenson returned as Cindy Moon, reprising her MCU role from Spider-Man: Homecoming, 2017, and Avengers: Infinity War, 2018, further expanding the film's connections to Spider-Man mythology. Olivia Booth Ford portrayed Sorrow Gray, Jean Grey's older sister and a fellow mutant possessing abilities similar to Jean's, whose tragic fate serves as the emotional catalyst for the film's central conflict. Billy Clements appeared as the cybernetically enhanced supervillain Ramrod, marking his second Marvel role after portraying the Russian in Deadpool Wolverine, 2024. By the time the film was locked for release, Spider-Man: Brand New Day had completed one of the most extensive post-production processes of any Spider-Man film, combining large-scale visual effects, practical stunt enhancements, carefully structured emotional storytelling, and strategic connections to both the broader Marvel Cinematic Universe and the legacy of Marvel's earlier television projects. The marketing campaign for Spider-Man: Brand New Day was one of the most ambitious and expensive promotional efforts ever mounted for a superhero film, combining global fan engagement, viral social media campaigns, interactive experiences, brand partnerships, convention presentations, and record-breaking trailer releases. The campaign officially began during Sony Pictures' CinemaCon presentation in March 2025, where director Destin Cretton discussed the creative direction of the project before Tom Holland appeared in a pre-recorded video message to officially unveil the film's title. The announcement immediately generated widespread discussion among fans and industry commentators because the title referenced Marvel Comics' influential Brand New Day storyline, which followed the controversial One More Day comic event that reset Peter Parker's life and relationships. Many observers noted the obvious parallels between that storyline and the conclusion of Spider-Man: No Way Home, 2021, in which Dr. Stephen Strange's spell erased Peter Parker from everyone's memories, effectively giving the MCU version of the character his own brand new day. The announcement also fueled speculation regarding how the events of Avengers: Doomsday, 2026, might influence the film's story, with many fans debating whether the movie would adapt elements of the original comic set including the involvement of Mephisto or simply use the title symbolically to represent Peter's new beginning. While some commentators pointed out that the comic's storyline remained controversial because it reset years of Spider-Man's character development, many believed the MCU adaptation could reinterpret the concept in a more emotionally satisfying way while preserving Peter's growth following No Way Home. Sony officially launched the film's marketing campaign on August 1, 2025, celebrated annually as Spider-Man Day, by releasing a brief 8-second teaser offering audiences their first glimpse of Spider-Man's redesigned costume. The new suit immediately attracted praise for embracing a significantly more comic-accurate aesthetic, featuring brighter red and blue colors, raised silver webbing, a larger spider emblem across the chest, and a textured fabric that combined elements of Tom Holland's previous MCU costumes with visual influences from the suits worn by Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. Critics highlighted the suit's more practical appearance, reduced technological features, and classic design, interpreting it as a visual representation of Peter Parker's return to his roots as a self-reliant neighborhood hero. The following day, Sony released a longer 22-second teaser, directed by Holland, Tom Holland's younger brother, which showcased the costume in full for the first time while featuring Michael Giacchino's iconic Spider-Man musical theme. Reviewers widely praised the redesigned suit as the closest live-action adaptation yet of Spider-Man's classic comic book appearance. On August 10, Sony released an extensive behind-the-scenes featurette documenting the first day of principal photography in Glasgow, Scotland, giving audiences an early look at the production process and demonstrating an unusual level of transparency compared with previous Marvel Studios productions. Industry observers remarked that Sony and Marvel appeared unusually willing to share behind-the-scenes material throughout production, helping maintain audience excitement over an extended period. The campaign escalated dramatically with the release of the film's first full trailer on March 18, 2026. Rather than following a traditional trailer rollout, Sony organized an innovative global promotional event by collaborating with hundreds of fans, influencers, and content creators across multiple countries. Throughout the previous day, participants simultaneously released short, atmospheric clips from the trailer on social media, encouraging audiences to assemble the complete picture before the official debut. Although reactions to the strategy were mixed, with some praising its interactive nature while others criticized its intentionally cryptic presentation, of the campaign generated extraordinary online engagement and dominated social media discussions worldwide. The trailer itself introduced the film's darker, more grounded tone while revealing several major story elements, including the Hand, Peter Parker's evolving spider mutations, the emergence of organic web shooters, temporary blackened eyes signaling his unstable transformation, and the mysterious arrival of Jean Grey. Fans immediately drew comparisons between Peter's biological evolution and classic Spider-Man comic storylines such as the Six-Arm Saga, and the Man-Spider arc from Spider-Man, the animated series. One sequence showing Spider-Man swinging through New York while carrying a civilian was widely recognized as a live-action homage to the iconic cover of Amazing Fantasy No. 15, the comic book that introduced Spider-Man in 1962. The trailer achieved unprecedented commercial success. According to market research firm Wave Matrix, the first trailer accumulated an extraordinary 718.6 million views within its first 24 hours, making it the most viewed film trailer in history. It surpassed the previous record holder, Deadpool Wolverine, 2024, which had received approximately 365 million views in less than 8 hours. The trailer also exceeded the overall 24-hour viewership record previously established by the promotional trailer for Grand Theft Auto V. Within only 4 days, total worldwide views surpassed 1.1 billion, making it the first film trailer ever to exceed 1 billion views. The remarkable performance reflected enormous anticipation for Tom Holland's return as Spider-Man and demonstrated the effectiveness of Sony's global digital marketing strategy. During CinemaCon 2026, Tom Holland and Sony Pictures chairman Tom Rothman introduced exclusive footage from the film to theater owners, further increasing enthusiasm ahead of its theatrical release. Sony continued the promotional campaign by unveiling the second official trailer on June 17, 2026, providing audiences with a significantly clearer understanding of the film's narrative while still preserving many of its major surprises. The trailer revealed the return of Bruce Banner's Savage Hulk, marking the character's first appearance in his uncontrollable form since Avengers: Infinity War, 2018, while also featuring emotional narration from Marissa Tomei's Aunt May, reinforcing the film's themes of sacrifice, grief, and responsibility. The appearance of a mysterious hooded figure later understood to be Sadie Sink's Jean Grey generated widespread speculation throughout the Marvel fan community. Once again, Wave Metrics reported exceptional audience engagement, estimating that the second trailer accumulated approximately 590.8 million views within its first week, becoming the second most viewed movie trailer ever released. Later that month, Sony presented the opening 18 minutes of the film exclusively to exhibitors attending the Cine Europe convention, allowing theater owners to preview the film's emotional opening and visually ambitious action sequences. The final trailer, released on July 21, 2026, adopted a markedly different approach by emphasizing nostalgia rather than revealing significant new footage. Much of the trailer revisited memorable moments from Spider-Man: Homecoming, Spider-Man: Far From Home, and Spider-Man: No Way Home, highlighting Peter Parker's emotional journey across the trilogy before transitioning into scenes from Brand New Day. Critics praised the marketing strategy for reinforcing the emotional stakes of Peter's new beginning rather than simply showcasing additional action. Many commentators concluded that Sony had intentionally avoided revealing the film's biggest surprises, preserving major plot developments for theatrical audiences. During San Diego Comic-Con 2026, John Bernthal presented an exclusive extended clip featuring Spider-Man and the Punisher battling the Savage Hulk, generating enthusiastic reactions from attendees and further reinforcing the film's darker, street-level tone. Beyond traditional advertising, Sony invested heavily in interactive experiences and promotional partnerships that extended the film's presence far beyond theaters. On June 17, 2026, Samsung launched an online interactive version of Ned Leeds' Spidey Tracker application, allowing fans worldwide to search for fictional Spider-Man sightings, unlock exclusive content, and receive story updates tied directly to the film. 10 days later, Sony partnered with Little Caesars to construct a full-scale recreation of Peter Parker's apartment in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, transforming the location into an immersive fan attraction filled with props, hidden Easter eggs, and previously unseen production details. Visitors also received the first public look at Marvin Jones 3's Tombstone, confirmation of Liza Cubed and Zaya's role as Detective Jean the Wolf, and opportunities to purchase Little Caesars limited edition Webberoni pizza. To further enhance the experience, Sony even created a fictional Zillow property listing advertising Peter's apartment as though it were a genuine New York residence. The studio also pursued several high-profile international brand collaborations. During the knockout stage of the 2026 FIFA World Cup, Sony released a special promotional short in which Lionel Messi encounters Peter Parker inside a New York cafe. Copyright while using the Spidey Tracker application in search of Spider-Man. The campaign quickly went viral across social media and further expanded the film's international visibility. In mid-July, Samsung released a cinematic commercial promoting its latest Galaxy Z foldable smartphones, directed by Kazuo Farahmani and photographed by Brett Pollock, featuring Tom Holland Spider-Man alongside Jacob Batalon as Ned Leeds. At approximately the same time, Liquid IV, a Unilever-owned hydration brand, launched a line of limited-edition Spider-Man-themed beverage flavors accompanied by a humorous television commercial starring Spider-Man and Ned. Batalon later appeared in character as Ned during Samsung's Galaxy Unpacked event in London, where Spider-Man also made a surprise appearance to promote both the film and Samsung's newest devices. A third commercial, produced in partnership with Major League Baseball, featured Spider-Man interacting with Juan Soto, then playing for the New York Mets, and the team's mascot Mr. Met at Citi Field, blending the superhero with one of New York City's most recognizable sports franchises. Sony also coordinated cross-promotional efforts within the gaming industry. On July 28, 2026, only days before the film's theatrical release, Insomniac Games added Spider-Man's new Fresh Start costume from Brand New Day as a free downloadable update for Marvel's Spider-Man 2, 2023, allowing players to wear the film's redesigned suit in-game. The update further strengthened the connection between the film and one of the most successful Spider-Man video game franchises while rewarding longtime fans with an authentic digital recreation of the costume. Overall, Sony Pictures supported Spider-Man: Brand New Day with an estimated $309 million global marketing campaign, making it one of the largest promotional campaigns ever undertaken for a superhero film, combining record-breaking digital engagement, innovative social media strategies, immersive fan experiences, major international partnerships, gaming integrations, and worldwide promotional events. The campaign successfully positioned Spider-Man: Brand New Day as one of the most anticipated cinematic releases of 2026 and reinforced Spider-Man's status as one of the most recognizable and commercially valuable characters in modern popular culture. Spider-Man, Brand New Day had its world premiere at the iconic Dolby Theater in Hollywood, Los Angeles, on July 27, 2026, where the cast, filmmakers, and numerous celebrities gathered to celebrate the launch of the next chapter in Tom Holland's Spider-Man saga. The red carpet event featured appearances by director Destin Cretton, stars Tom Holland, Zendaya, Sadie Sink, Jacob Batalon, John Bernthal, Florence Pugh, Tremaine Tillman, Marissa Tomei, and Mark Ruffalo, along with producers Kevin Feige, Amy Pascal, Avi Arad, and other members of the creative team. The premiere generated widespread media attention across entertainment outlets and social media, with critics praising the film's emotional storytelling, grounded tone, and Holland's performance during the first wave of reactions following the screening. Following its premiere, Spider-Man, Brand New Day was theatrically released by Sony Pictures, releasing in the United States on July 31, 2026. Serving as one of the year's biggest global theatrical events. The film debuted simultaneously in thousands of theaters across North America and numerous international territories, receiving one of Sony Pictures' widest worldwide releases. As the 38th feature film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and an official installment of Phase 6, the film continues Peter Parker's story after the events of Spider-Man: No Way Home, 2021. While also contributing to the larger narrative leading toward the concluding chapters of the MCU's multiverse saga. The film received an extensive premium format release, reflecting Sony's emphasis on providing audiences with an immersive theatrical experience. Spider-Man, Brand New Day became the first feature film ever produced specifically for the ScreenX format, with several action sequences filmed using specially designed panoramic camera setups that extended beyond the traditional cinema screen. The release marked the inaugural entry in CJ Ford Plex's Shot for ScreenX initiative, allowing audiences in compatible theaters to experience expanded 270-degree visuals during selected scenes. In addition to ScreenX, the film was released in REL 3D, Dolby Cinema, D-Box, and 4DX, each offering enhanced presentation through premium projection, immersive sound systems, synchronized motion seating, environmental effects, or three-dimensional exhibition. Selected international markets also received IMAX presentations, allowing viewers to experience specially formatted sequences photographed for the large format screens with expanded image ratios and enhanced visual clarity. To generate additional anticipation before the nationwide launch, Sony partnered with Amazon Prime to host exclusive advanced screenings on July 29, 2026, giving Prime members early access to the film in participating theaters across the United States. The advanced screenings proved highly successful, creating strong social media buzz and contributing to overwhelmingly positive early audience reactions ahead of the official release. The film's release date underwent a significant scheduling adjustment during development. Spider-Man, Brand New Day was originally scheduled to open on July 24, 2026, but Sony Pictures ultimately postponed the release by 1 week to July 31, 2026. The decision was made primarily to avoid direct competition for IMAX auditoriums with Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, 2026, which secured an exclusive 4-week commitment for the majority of IMAX screens worldwide due to its large format production and exhibition agreements. By moving Brand New Day 2 weeks after The Odyssey instead of 1, Sony reduced competition for premium large format venues while allowing both films greater opportunities to maximize their theatrical revenue. The scheduling adjustment also reflected the close relationships between the two productions, as Tom Holland starred in both films and had previously delayed Brand New Day's production schedule to accommodate his work on Nolan's epic. Earlier in development, Disney had reserved the original July 24, 2026 release date for an unspecified Marvel Studios project. However, after Disney removed that untitled MCU film from its release calendar in August 2024, Sony temporarily claimed the date for Spider-Man, Brand New Day before later electing to shift the film to the following weekend for strategic exhibition reasons. The final release schedule ultimately allowed Brand New Day to launch as one of the centerpiece theatrical releases of the 2026 summer season while maintaining its important position within the ongoing narrative of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. As an official Phase 6 installment, Spider-Man: Brand New Day bridges the emotional conclusion of Spider-Man: No Way Home with the larger events unfolding across the MCU, while simultaneously establishing a new era for Peter Parker as a more mature, independent, and street-level Spider-Man. Its worldwide theatrical release marked the beginning of a fresh chapter for the character and reaffirmed Spider-Man's position as one of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's most recognizable and commercially significant superheroes. As of July 31, 2026, Spider-Man: Brand New Day has grossed $72 million in the United States and Canada and $1 million from international markets, for an early worldwide total of $73 million, produced on an estimated $225 million production budget. The film has opened to exceptionally strong commercial results and is widely expected to become one of the highest-grossing releases of 2026. Industry analysts projected that the film would earn approximately $195 million during its opening weekend in the United States and Canada, with an additional $270 million from overseas territories, resulting in a projected global opening weekend of approximately $465 million. If achieved, the debut would rank among the largest worldwide openings in the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the Spider-Man franchise, while positioning the film as one of the biggest theatrical launches of the post-pandemic era. The film delivered a historic start at the North American box office by earning an unprecedented $72 million from Thursday preview screenings alone, establishing a new all-time record for preview grosses and surpassing the previous benchmark set by Avengers: Endgame, 2019. The extraordinary preview performance significantly exceeded industry expectations and immediately prompted major box office tracking firms to revise their opening weekend forecasts upward, following the record-breaking Thursday earnings and exceptionally strong advance ticket sales. Several analysts increased their worldwide opening weekend projections to as much as $900 million, reflecting extraordinary audience demand and the film's potential to become one of the highest opening films of all time. Internationally, Spider-Man: Brand New Day also achieved remarkable opening day results across several key markets. In France, the film was released on July 29, 2026. Opening in 978 theaters and attracting approximately 650,130 admissions on its first day. The performance represented the largest opening day for any film in France since Avengers: Endgame, 2019, highlighting the continued popularity of both the Spider-Man franchise and the Marvel Cinematic Universe among French audiences. In India, where the film opened on July 30, 2026, Spider-Man: Brand New Day grossed approximately $7.5 million on its opening day, setting a new record for the biggest opening day ever achieved by a Hollywood film in the country. The film surpassed the previous record held by Avengers: Endgame, demonstrating the enormous popularity of Tom Holland's Spider-Man and the growing strength of the MCU in one of the world's fastest expanding theatrical markets. The film also achieved outstanding results in advance ticket sales before its release. In the United States, Spider-Man: Brand New Day recorded the highest first-day ticket pre-sales in 5 years, since Spider-Man: No Way Home, 2021, which had generated an estimated $78 million in advance ticket purchases. Demand for premium large-format screenings including IMAX, Dolby Cinema, ScreenX, 4DX, and other premium formats was particularly strong, with many showings selling out shortly after tickets became available. The record-breaking pre-sales, combined with exceptional preview grosses and robust international openings, underscored the immense anticipation surrounding Peter Parker's return and established Spider-Man: Brand New Day as one of the most commercially successful theatrical launches of 2026. Spider-Man: Brand New Day received generally positive reviews from critics, with reviewers praising its darker, more emotionally mature approach to Spider-Man's story, Tom Holland's career-best performance, Destin Daniel Cretton's confident direction, and the film's successful transition away from multiverse-driven spectacle toward a grounded, street-level narrative centered on Peter Parker's personal struggles. Many critics viewed the film as a bold creative reinvention of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Spider-Man series, applauding its willingness to explore themes of loneliness, grief, identity, responsibility, trauma, forgiveness, and self-acceptance while presenting Peter as an older, more isolated hero forced to redefine his purpose after the world forgets his existence following the events of Spider-Man: No Way Home, 2021. Reviewers particularly appreciated that the film shifted its focus away from universe-threatening stakes in favor of a more intimate character study, allowing Peter's emotional journey to take precedence over the larger Marvel mythology. Critics also highlighted the film's practical stunt work, comic-inspired action choreography, atmospheric cinematography, emotional screenplay, and memorable performances from supporting cast members including John Bernthal, Sadie Sink, Zendaya, and Mark Ruffalo. However, while the film earned widespread praise for its ambition and emotional depth, several reviewers believed its narrative occasionally became overcomplicated by its lengthy runtime, extensive mythology, multiple subplots, and unavoidable connections to the wider Marvel Cinematic Universe, preventing it from achieving the narrative efficiency of the strongest Spider-Man films. On the review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes, Spider-Man: Brand New Day holds an approval rating of 90% based on 272 critical reviews, with an average rating of 7.7 out of 10. The website's critical consensus reads, "Spinning a web of spectacular set pieces together with mature emotional stakes and Tom Holland's soulful performance, Brand New Day is a promising reset that portends Spidey will remain sticky on the big screen for years to come." The consensus reflects the broad agreement among critics that the film successfully balances emotionally grounded storytelling with thrilling superhero spectacle while confidently establishing a fresh direction for Peter Parker following the dramatic conclusion of No Way Home. Many reviewers considered the film a spiritual return to the core values that have defined Spider-Man for decades, emphasizing compassion, sacrifice, perseverance, and humanity over cosmic-scale action. Critics also praised the screenplay for embracing Peter Parker's vulnerability and portraying him as a flawed young adult attempting to rebuild his life without the support system that once defined him. On Metacritic, which assigns a weighted average score based on reviews from selected critics, the film received a score of 66 out of 100 based on 52 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews. Although the score suggested a somewhat more divided critical response than Rotten Tomatoes, the majority of reviewers nevertheless regarded the film as a worthy continuation of Holland's Spider-Man saga and praised its willingness to take creative risks. Several critics acknowledged that while the film's ambitious narrative occasionally struggled under the weight of its many ideas, its emotional sincerity, strong performances, and character-driven storytelling ultimately outweighed its structural flaws. Writing for Deadline Hollywood, Pete Hammond described Spider-Man: Brand New Day as a dark and thrilling new chapter for the Spider-Man franchise and one of Marvel Studios' strongest recent productions. Hammond praised Destin Daniel Cretton for successfully reinventing the series with a more grounded and emotionally intimate tone while preserving the excitement, humor, and spectacular action audiences expect from a Spider-Man film. He highlighted Tom Holland's performance as the emotional heart of the movie, describing it as arguably the finest work of the actor's career. Hammond noted that Holland convincingly portrays Peter Parker's profound loneliness, emotional exhaustion, resilience, and unwavering compassion despite enduring extraordinary personal loss. He also applauded the screenplay for exploring Peter's deteriorating mental and physical condition as his evolving spider powers begin to spiral beyond his control. Hammond concluded that the film represented one of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's most emotionally rewarding superhero stories in years by balancing heartfelt character drama with exhilarating action sequences and visually ambitious set pieces. For Variety, Owen Gleiberman praised the film's ambitious storytelling, impressive visual presentation, emotionally charged performances, and dynamic action choreography. particularly highlighting Holland's nuanced portrayal of Peter Parker's psychological struggles and Destin Daniel Cretton's confident visual style. Gleiberman admired the film's willingness to examine Peter's isolation and evolving identity rather than relying solely on blockbuster spectacle. Nevertheless, he criticized the film for becoming arduous, clunkily episodic, and approximately half an hour too long, arguing that its narrative occasionally felt weighed down by numerous interconnected storylines that interrupted its emotional momentum. Although he appreciated the film's darker tone and more mature storytelling, he believed the screenplay sometimes prioritized seriousness over emotional immediacy, resulting in several sequences that felt dramatically distant despite their thematic importance. Even so, Gleiberman acknowledged that the film represented one of the MCU's more ambitious attempts to tell a genuinely character-focused superhero story. Writing for The Guardian, Peter Bradshaw praised the film's emotional ambition, mature storytelling, and confident performances, particularly emphasizing the chemistry between Tom Holland and Zendaya, which he felt remained deeply affecting despite Peter and MJ no longer sharing memories of their previous relationship. Bradshaw admired the film's exploration of grief, sacrifice, memory, and emotional healing, noting that its willingness to slow down and focus on Peter's internal struggles distinguished it from many recent superhero films. He also complimented Destin Daniel Cretton's restrained direction for allowing quieter emotional scenes to breathe between the larger action sequences. However, Bradshaw argued that some conventional superhero storytelling devices and predictable third-act developments occasionally reduced the originality of the film's otherwise compelling emotional narrative, preventing it from fully realizing its dramatic potential. For the Wrap, William Bibbiani hailed Spider-Man: Brand New Day as a fantastic film about Peter Parker and described it as one of the finest entries in the entire Spider-Man franchise. Bibbiani argued that the film succeeds because it fundamentally understands Spider-Man as a human drama first and a superhero spectacle second. He praised writers Chris McKenna and Eric Summers for crafting a screenplay that prioritizes Peter Parker's emotional growth over franchise mythology while allowing every major action sequence to emerge naturally from the character's personal struggles. Bibbiani singled out Tom Holland and John Bernthal as the film's standout performers, applauding the evolving relationships between Peter Parker and Frank Castle, which develops from mutual distrust into an emotionally compelling mentor-student dynamic. He regarded their scenes together as some of the strongest in the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. His primary criticism focused on the central antagonist's overall plan, which he considered unnecessarily complicated despite finding the emotional motivations behind the character highly compelling. In Empire, John Nugent awarded the film 4 out of 5 stars, describing it as a triumphant return to Spider-Man's comic book origins. Nugent praised the film for embracing neighborhood-level storytelling after years of increasingly large-scale multiversal adventures, arguing that Peter Parker works best when confronting relatable personal challenges alongside street-level threats. He commended Destin Daniel Cretton for respecting the character's comic book legacy while simultaneously pushing Holland's Spider-Man into emotionally unexplored territory. Nugent declared that Spider-Man remains Marvel's ace in the pack, crediting Holland's consistently engaging performance for anchoring the increasingly complex Marvel Cinematic Universe. However, he observed that the film's second half occasionally lost momentum due to several references and narrative connections to the broader MCU, which he believed distracted from Peter's otherwise deeply personal story. Writing for The Hollywood Reporter, David Rooney praised Destin Daniel Cretton's ability to balance adrenaline and feeling, arguing that the director never loses sight of the humanity that has always been Spidey's greatest strength. Rooney described Tom Holland's portrayal as the actor's most complete and emotionally layered performance as Peter Parker, praising his ability to communicate vulnerability, exhaustion, determination, and hope without sacrificing the character's trademark optimism. Rooney also commended the chemistry among the supporting cast, particularly Holland's interactions with John Bernthal, Zendaya, and Mark Ruffalo, all of whom contribute meaningful emotional depth to Peter's journey. He admired the film's visual storytelling, practical stunt work, and carefully choreographed action scenes, though he acknowledged that the increasingly complex plot and occasional pacing issues prevented the narrative from maintaining consistent dramatic momentum throughout its nearly 3-hour runtime. For Metro, Tori Brazier described Spider-Man: Brand New Day as exactly how you should be making superhero movies in 2026, praising its emphasis on character development, emotional authenticity, and meaningful storytelling rather than relying exclusively on visual spectacle. Brazier applauded Destin Cretton for successfully balancing blockbuster entertainment with genuine emotional resonance, while also praising Chris McKenna and Eric Summers for demonstrating remarkable sensitivity in portraying Peter Parker's psychological and emotional evolution. She highlighted Holland's performance as one of the defining superhero performances of the decade and commended the screenplay's mature exploration of responsibility, loneliness, and identity. Although she believed the film occasionally overstayed its welcome, she argued that its emotional impact remained consistently engaging throughout.